You kept showing up, every time, without being asked, without needing a reason. You reached out first. You made the plans. You checked in. You remembered the small things, the things that mattered to them, and you showed up for those things too. And you told yourself, this is just how I love. This is just who I am. Some people show up loudly. I show up consistently. But there was a night, just an ordinary night, when you were about to reach out again. Thumb hovering, message half typed, and something made you stop. Not anger, not a decision, just a stillness. A quiet that asked a question you had been avoiding for a very long time. When was the last time they reached out first? And in the silence that followed that question, you had your answer. You put your phone down, and you sat with something that had been true for a long time, but that you were only just now willing to finally see. You were the only one trying. You always had been. And once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. You started counting, not obsessively, just honestly. How many times had you reached out first this month? How many plans had you made that would never have existed if you hadn't made them? How many conversations had you carried, asking questions, showing interest, keeping things alive, while they responded just enough to make you feel like it was mutual? And the answer sat heavy in your chest, because it wasn't a recent thing. It had been this way for a long time, maybe from the beginning. And you had been so focused on showing up, so committed to being the person who never gave up on people, that you hadn't stopped to notice that your effort was the only thing holding this together. Remove your effort, and there was nothing. Not a relationship that would struggle without you, not a connection that would feel your absence. Just silence. The kind that reveals exactly how much someone actually valued what you were giving. And here is what made it worse. You weren't angry at them. You were angry at yourself for missing it, for convincing yourself it was balanced when it wasn't, for being so afraid of losing the connection that you kept feeding it alone, long after it had stopped feeding you back. But here's what you need to understand about why you couldn't see it sooner. Today, you are going to understand exactly why you couldn't see it sooner, and why seeing it now is not a loss. It is the most important thing that has ever happened to you. In this video, you will discover 5 psychological truths about one-sided relationships. Why they happen, what they do to you, and what the moment of clarity you just had means for every relationship you will ever have from this point forward. Stay with me until the end, because the last step contains something that will change the way you see yourself and what you deserve forever. Step 1. Why one-sided effort is so hard to see. The psychology of hope and denial. Here is the uncomfortable truth. You saw the signs. You felt the imbalance. Long before that night when you stopped with your thumb hovering over the send button, some part of you already knew. So why didn't you see it sooner? Because hope is one of the most powerful psychological forces in the human mind. And when hope gets attached to a person, it does something dangerous. It filters reality. It takes every small gesture, every moment of warmth, every occasional effort they made, and magnifies it, while quietly minimizing everything that didn't fit the story you needed to believe. Psychologists call this confirmation bias in attachment. It means when you are emotionally invested in someone, your brain unconsciously collects evidence that the relationship is working and discards evidence that it isn't. Picture this. They texted you first, once, after 3 weeks of silence, and your brain lit up. See, they do care. They are just busy. They show love differently. And you held on to that one text for weeks. Let it justify the imbalance. Let it reset your patience. Let it give you enough hope to keep trying. That is not weakness. That is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. Protect the attachments it has already formed. Because losing a connection, even an unequal one, triggers the same psychological pain as any other loss. But here's what nobody tells you about hope in one-sided relationships. Hope is not always about the other person. Sometimes hope is about you, about the version of yourself that chose this person, that invested in them, that believed in what this could be. Letting go of the hope means letting go of that version of yourself too. And that, not the person, is often what makes it so impossibly hard to see clearly. But now you see it, and that changes everything. Because what happens in step 2 will show you exactly what carrying this alone has been doing to you, in ways you may not have fully felt yet, but will recognize immediately when you hear them. Step 2, what carrying a relationship alone does to your self-worth. Over time, this one is going to hurt a little. Not because it is harsh, but because it is true in a way that most people feel, but never fully name. When you are the only one trying in a relationship, something happens to you that has nothing to do with the other person. Something that happens quietly, internally. In the way you begin to see yourself, you start to shrink. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to adjust your expectations downward. You stop asking for as much. You stop expressing what you need. You tell yourself you are being mature, selfless, understanding. But here is what is actually happening underneath all of that. You are learning, at a cellular level, that your needs are not worth advocating for, that your presence is something people tolerate rather than seek out, that effort in relationships flows one direction, outward from you, and that is simply how it is. Picture this. You plan something, put real thought into it, because you wanted them to feel valued. They showed up late, distracted, checked their phone twice, said it was great, and left. And you told yourself it was fine. But somewhere inside you, something registered that moment, filed it away alongside all the other moments just like it. And without you consciously deciding anything, your sense of what you deserve quietly adjusted to match the evidence you kept collecting. This is what psychologists call self-worth erosion through relational neglect. It is not a single devastating blow. It is 1,000 small moments of not being chosen, accumulating silently, until one day you realize you have stopped expecting to be chosen at all. And the most painful part? You did it to yourself, not intentionally, not out of weakness, but out of love for someone who was never loving you back with the same intensity. You gave them the power to define your worth, without either of you ever realizing it was happening. Stop. Because this next part is where everything starts to shift. Step 3, the moment clarity arrives. And why it feels like grief instead of relief. Here is something nobody prepares you for. The moment you finally see the truth about a one-sided relationship, it does not feel like freedom. It feels like loss. And that confuses people. Because from the outside, clarity looks like a gift, like finally having the answer, like the fog lifting and everything becoming visible at last. But from the inside, it feels like standing in the rubble of something you built with your own hands, looking at what remains, and realizing that most of what you thought existed never did. That specific grief, the grief of losing something you never actually had, is one of the most disorienting experiences a human being can go through. Picture this. You are driving home one evening. Nothing dramatic happened. No argument, no final moment, just a quiet, ordinary drive. And somewhere between one traffic light and the next, it lands, fully, completely, without warning. They were never going to try the way you tried. Not because they couldn't, but because they didn't need to. Because you were always going to do it for them, and you pull over. Not because you planned to, but because suddenly you need a moment that the road can't hold. That moment in the car, that quiet devastation of finally knowing, is not weakness. It is not you falling apart. It is your mind releasing something it has been holding together through sheer force of hope for a very long time. Feel it. Don't rush it. Don't immediately replace it with anger or logic or the urge to confront them or explain yourself. Just feel it. Yeah, because on the other side of that grief is something you have not felt in a very long time. Yourself, clearly. Without the distortion of hope that was never going to be fulfilled. And that, as painful as the path to it is worth every moment of the grief it cost you to get there. But hold on, because step 4 is the one that answers the question you are already asking. Why? Why didn't they try? Was it me? Was there something I could have done differently? The answer is not what you expect. Step 4, why the person who never tried was never going to. The psychology of unequal investment. Let's answer the question that has been sitting in your chest since the moment you saw the truth. Was it you? No, not in the way you think. Here's what actually happened. And understanding this, truly understanding it, is the thing that will finally let you put this down. Some people move through relationships as receivers, not because they are cruel, not because they don't care at all, but because somewhere in their history, they learned that love flows toward them. That effort is something other people make. That showing up consistently is not something they need to do, because someone will always show up for them regardless. Psychologists call this an anxious avoidant attachment dynamic. It means one person pursues, invests, tries, and the other receives, withdraws, and takes the effort for granted. Not always consciously, not always maliciously, but consistently, predictably, in a pattern that repeats itself in every relationship they have. Picture this. Think about how they were with other people in their life. Not just you. Their friendships, their family, the pattern of who reached out, who remembered, who made the effort. I will bet everything that you were not the first person to carry more than your share with them. And that tells you something crucial. It was never about you specifically. It was about the role you accepted in their life. The moment you became the one who tried, you became the one who would always try. Because that is what the dynamic required. Yeah, and as long as you kept trying, there was no reason for them to. Here is the most important psychological truth in this entire video. People do not rise to show up for you. They rise to the level of what you require from them. When you require nothing, when you absorb the imbalance silently, when you keep trying regardless of whether they reciprocate, you are not showing them love. You are showing them that your effort has no conditions. An effort without conditions, in an unequal relationship, does not inspire them to try harder. It teaches them that they never have to. And this is the part that changes everything. The moment you stopped, thumb hovering, and chose not to reach out, something shifted. Not just in the relationship, in you. You stopped teaching them that your effort was unconditional. And for the first time, the silence was not theirs. It was yours. Chosen, deliberate, powerful. Step 5 is where we take that power and build something with it that no one can ever take from you again. Step 5, what you do with this realization. And why? Walking away is not giving up, but growing up. Here is where everything changes. Not the relationship, not them. You. Because here is the truth about the person you are right now. Sitting with this realization, finally seeing clearly what has been true for a long time. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not someone who loved wrong or tried too hard or gave too freely. You are someone who finally learned the most important lesson that one-sided relationships exist to teach: that your effort is not infinite, that your presence is not something people are entitled to, that showing up consistently, quietly, without recognition is one of the most valuable things a human being can offer, and it deserves to be met equally, deliberately, without you having to ask. But here's what walking away from this actually requires, and most people get this wrong. It does not require anger. It does not require a confrontation. It does not require sending the message that explains everything they did wrong, the one you have been composing in your head for weeks. It requires something much harder than any of those things. It requires silence. Your silence. The same silence you felt that night when you put your phone down and finally stopped. Not as punishment, not as a game, but as a statement, made to yourself more than to them, that you are no longer available to be the only one trying. Picture this. The day after you stop reaching out, they notice. Maybe not immediately, maybe not for a week, but eventually. The absence of your effort creates a silence loud enough that even someone who never tried can hear it. Some of them will reach out, suddenly warm, suddenly present, suddenly everything you needed them to be when you were still trying. And you will feel the pull, that familiar hope rising again, that voice saying, "See, they do care. It just took them time. Stop. And remember, step 1. That is not love recognizing your value. That is need recognizing its supply has disappeared. Real love does not require you to disappear before it shows up. Real love shows up before it has to. And here is the most powerful thing you will take from this entire video. The effort you were pouring into someone who was never going to meet you halfway, that effort did not disappear. It did not get wasted. It got redirected back to you. And every morning you wake up and choose not to reach out first. Every boundary you hold in the quiet without announcing it. Every moment you invest in yourself instead of in someone who was never investing back. That is not giving up on them. That is finally, after a very long time, choosing yourself. And choosing yourself is not the end of your story. It is the first sentence of the one that actually matters. So let's bring this all together. You were the one who showed up, every time, without being asked, without keeping score, without making them feel guilty for receiving what you gave so freely. And for a long time, you called that love. But now you understand what it really was. It was you, carrying something alone that was always meant to be shared, pouring yourself into a connection that only flowed one direction, shrinking your needs, silencing your doubts, holding on to hope long after the evidence had stopped supporting it. And then, one quiet, ordinary night, you stopped. And in that stopping, you found something you had been losing piece by piece without realizing it. Yourself. You now understand why you couldn't see it sooner. Because hope protects the attachments we are most afraid to lose. While you felt what carrying it alone did to your sense of worth. Quietly, invisibly, over time. You sat with the grief of clarity and understood that grief is not weakness, but release. You saw that their inability to try was never about your value, but about a pattern that existed long before you. And you learned that walking away from one-sided effort is not giving up on love. It is finally understanding what love is supposed to feel like. Equal, mutual, chosen, by both people, every single day. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. And now, for the first time, you know exactly the difference. If this video said something you have needed to hear for a long time, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who is still the only one trying. Someone who keeps showing up for a person who never shows up for them. Someone who deserves to finally understand what their exhaustion is trying to tell them. If this helped you, hit the like button right now. Subscribe for more psychological insights that help you understand yourself and protect your peace every single week. And drop a comment below. Tell me, have you ever been the only one trying? Just say yes. I felt this. I read every single one. Next video, something that will stop you completely. The psychology of why some people only miss you after they lose you, and what that actually says about them. You will not want to miss that.